Hey, it's W5HRO. Here it is the weekend again. It's Sunday, and I've been playing around with this radio. I bypassed all the clipper and everything, and this thing, it's overdriving the final now. I'm gonna have to put that pod in there. I basically, let me show you what I've done. Let me turn this down. I had to use my external audio generator, my function generator here, 1 kilohertz tone to do this. And this scope, what I found, this is that new Chinese scope that I got. It works pretty good. It's not good for sampling the modulation envelope though, so I have to use my analog scope for that. But it has a generator output, and you can go up to, like, was it 10 kilohertz? From 0 to 10 kilohertz. The problem is the output level's fixed at 2.5 volts peak to peak, and I don't see a way to back it down. The manual doesn't say anything, and unless there's some combination of buttons you have to hit, but I think it's more or less set up sort of like for, TTL type logic, and they just got a fixed 2.5 volts. So what good's that? So I had to use my external generator. I was hoping I could use this thing to sweep audio circuits to do what I'm doing now, but it looks like maybe not. The one thing I found out right away, with this 6CW5 tube in here, I had to put the 6BQ5 back in, because the thing, after I beef this thing up, it downwards modulates something terrible, and I think the problem is the supply's not enough current to handle that much extra oomph out of it. So I put the 6BQ5 back in, and I had to adjust the load, and it's about 3 watts output now, and then I can get the thing where the thing forwards modulates a little bit, unless I overdrive it. But look what happens now if I turn the level up. See, I'm gonna have to, since I removed the clipper, but I'm just gonna control the gain of that first stage, the output of that first stage, or, going into the next stage, the 6EU7. And so you can kind of see what's happening. Let me pull the jumper on this thing. And I did wire up the microphone to it, and I've still got the amplified mic. What I'm going to do is, when I get this thing working, if I can bypass the amplifier, I'll just go in there and I'll just take I'll just put the jumper wire in the base of the mic. I'll disconnect the amp, and I'll just jumper it over to the white of the cord and not worry about it. But I'll just leave the amp in there. I'll just have it bypassed. Let me try to get this on here real quick. There we go. And I see what happens. Now watch. See, it's just like having the generator. So I'm going to have to limit the input to that next 6EU7 stage. Let me show you what I have here. What I've done is, because what this does is, this clipper that was in here squares off the top and the bottom of the waveform, and I want the square gone. And what I'm looking at now, what you're seeing is, I'm looking at the, what am I looking at? I'm looking right here at this point, the 6BQ5. I'm right here. Is that where I am? Yeah, I'm right here. So I've got the DC level going through here too and everything. See, right now it's showing 303 volts RMS on that line. So that's where I'm looking. I'm looking right here on the output of going to the primary. What they're doing, they're doing like the old Heising style modulation, where they're going up in through here, see? And what's funny is, years ago, and I don't know why it does this, I did replace that bulb, the modulation light, and it did it to me years ago. Whenever I'd put a 6CW5 in there, the light would no longer light up, because the audio level does back down a little bit. And so I even bypassed the series resistor. I replaced that NE2 bulb is what it's an NE2. And I just bypassed that. I bypassed that resistor there. So it's just going from the coupling cap, which is the way the old Courier Royale was. It didn't have the current limiting. So I even took that out of there, and it still won't light that thing up. You have to put the 6BQ5 back in to get that modulation light to light. Plus the audio level comes way the heck up. What the 6CW5 does is, it brings up the carrier level so far that the supply really can't handle it. And even if you back, because I've modified this thing for 10 meters, the plate and the load, I don't have enough adjusting on the load to bring it, to get it down far enough to get it to forwards modulate, so it's always backing up. But since I'm gonna run this thing into that Courier 100 watt amp anyway, I don't think it's gonna matter. As long as I can get 100 watts out with 3 watts of drive, I'll be happy. So, but right now I'm just going to have to go through and I'm going to leave this stuff in here tonight because my daughter's in Elk Grove and the XYL's working and she's not going to cook tomorrow. So I'm just going to leave this here one more night and I'm going to work on it when I come home from work tomorrow and do a little bit more splicing around in here. But that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been looking at this thing. But what I'm going to do is I've got this clipper completely removed. What I did was I disconnected this into this .005 and I just put it right over to here, to the input to this 220K. And I've looked at the output here and it looks pretty good. It does get a little bit, it starts to flatten off just a little bit if you drive it too hard, but everything's still pretty round. It's not bad. I did try disconnecting this diode to see what it would do. It's connected down the squelch circuit, and it does. The squelch starts making the receiver starts making kind of a noise, and boy, then it really opened up the gain. I don't know why, because a 4.7 meg in series with that really shouldn't affect the audio going through, but it goes through to enough, just to the point where it does. They had the clipper in here because this thing overdrives this stage, but I'm just going to do something different. I have some little miniature relays, and what I did was, let me stop the video, and then I'm going to have to splice these together, but let me stop this and I'll start it back up again. Hey, I'm back. So if you can see, what I did was, there's where the clipper circuit was. I removed that whole, because I want to make room to put a relay in here. And this, believe it or not, this is the 6BQ5, modulator and receive final audio tube. That's what that is. And see how they've got that 220 ohm resistor with that cap going across it. That's what that is right there. See that? And the tube is way over here. They have that cathode resistor run way over here. What I did was I took my dikes and this thing was, the rivet was right there. That's the ground connection. So I just took my dikes and I cut that whole terminal strip off from this point here, then free up some room. I'm gonna probably move these components. I'm gonna actually move them way over here close to the tube before I'm done, because I may put the relay right in here. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the relay. I have a single pole, single throw relay. I could stick right in here. I could just hot glue it down in there, wire it up, or I've got another one I can do. I got a smaller one. I don't know, I'm hoping these things will handle the higher voltage. They should be okay. They're 12 volt coil relay, so I'm gonna make it on transmit. It'll engage the relay and it'll switch. I may have to put this one like right in there. This is a double pole, double throw. So they have the same range. They're like, what, at 30 volts at so many amps, like an amp or something, a couple amps. So, I mean, it's going to be, of course, it's milliamps compared to that. So I think they'll handle the voltage. And if I do it right, I won't have that high a voltage on them anyway. So I'm probably going to just either Velcro one in there or put some that double-sided tape, stickum pad, and stick it in there. Then put those solder wires to it where it holds it down and where it can't move anyway. Or I'll just hot glue it down in there maybe. I'll figure out what I'm going to do. That way I can always take it out if I ever had to. But what I'm going to do is, you can see when you're modulating, the audio waveforms coming through, it's going through that .005 and back through that pot, which is the audio gain control pot. And if you move this pot around, depending on where it is, it changes the shape of that waveform. So I'm going to do like the ECI Couriers did, and I'm going to put the relay where it disconnects that. So I just don't know what to do about that Zener and that 4.7 meg. What I might do is I might make it where it disconnects. What I should probably do is make it where it disconnects it from the tube here. Just get rid of the tube, it just disconnects it, right? It just disconnects it from the tube when I transmit. And I'll just have that 500K pot wiper to there like I had those boron pots I showed you last time, and I'll just adjust it and I'll figure out where it needs to be. Then I'll put a fixed resistor in there. But I just got to get the level down so it's not squaring off. It's too hot. But the thing is, with this old clipper circuit in there, it's squared off the top of the bottom, that waveform anyway, so it still looked like crap. I'm trying to get everything round's what I'm doing. So my modification is going to have more, I'm going to have more gain, more compression, and I'm going to have a round sine wave going into this tube here. Which it almost is, but the clipper, when the clipper was engaged, it squared it off. I mean, it's like, you don't want to do that with audio circuits. You don't want square waves going in through this stuff. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm doing. I just got to beef up this audio circuit. I got to redesign it just a little bit and, get all that straightened out. And I mean, if I don't want to use an amplified mic, I'd probably have to remove that cathode, that 6CU7 mic amp tube. I'd have to put the resistor and, bias that up like Class A. I'd get more, you get more drive this way, but you kind of lose, well, if you put a small enough resistor in there, you still have plenty of drive. So I may have to reconfigure that to get more audio gain, get more voltage gain out of it. And so it kind of stays there, but at the same time, if you don't want to decrease the power too much, it might be okay like it is. But see, they got 100K to ground on the play that thing. They're loading the thing down with that 100K. So that might be part of the other problem. But all that 1 meg's gone. All that other circuitry is completely gone. It's all gone. It's all disconnected. Like I said, I've cut it out of there completely. So I need to make room for the relay. So I'm still working on it, but I just got to figure out how to get it, if I can put that boron pot in there and adjust it, figure out what value. Well, if I did that though, then I wouldn't have a wiper to adjust. I'd probably have to leave the pot in there to do it right. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I could put it in place, that R63, I could put it in place at 100K, and just put the wiper, going to that cap, going up there maybe. And I'm not sure, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this .001 cap, that C001, and I'm going to see if it affects the receiving any at all. Because then I'll remove that 220K, and I'll put that pot in there, and I'll just adjust the level so I've got a grounded off sine wave at the right level to not give me the squared output on the output of this thing. So that's how I'm going to do it. So anyhow, I guess what they did was, they clipped this thing so people could run, because people were using amplified mics on these things, so they were driving it, so they stopped it right there. That's how they were getting the compression. But I could use that Dimco speech amp clipper. I could do that instead. But those also, I don't want the thing squared off. I think those keep it more round though. I just don't like using diodes like this as a clipper because it just ruins it. You don't want the thing squared off like that. You want it, you want it round, because you start having the audio quality deteriorates, and you start getting audio harmonics going through the thing, and the sharp harmonics from those sharp edges, the third order stuff. And I don't want third order garbage going through this thing, because that's what happens when you use a clipper. You get a bunch of garbage going through. So anyway, I could keep the amplified mic on this thing and just, like I said, just decrease the level going to the grid of this second stage of the 6CU7. That's a dual triode tube. It's the same tube. They're using one half of it for the mic amp and the other half for the driver, for the final modulator tube. But I need to make it to where it disconnects this other circuit here, and then figure out a way, I could disconnect it here, put another series coupling cap. I could change this value cap and put another one here to where it equals the same value when they're in series, right? I could just put two 0.01s in series, put a 0.01 here and a 0.01 there to get the same 0.005. Plus, I'm probably going to want to tweak that value anyway to get the audio tone right from my voice. So I think the .005 here is fine. Even maybe a .001 might be better for my bassy voice. And this can be like a couple .001s in series. Then I'd have I'd take the DC off that. Well, I'd have to make it to where, you know, it just disconnects everything, you know, from the grid of that tube and switches it over to that wiper, that pot going to ground with this circuit connected to it, driving it. That's how I'd have to do it. And I'd have to probably use this, the double pole, double throw relay. Or double pole, let me see. No, I could probably still use the single pole, single throw. This might be a more durable relay. I could just do it here. See, I'll just glue it there. So that may work fine. That may be the solution. So I think those relays will be okay. Then when I transmit, like I said, it's just going to engage the coil because I got 12 volts running this thing anyway. What they're doing is they're running these tubes in series, the filaments in series. So you got a 12 volt supply driving the 6.3 volt filaments, and they've got them in series. That's how they did this radio. They did the two of them in series instead of using that way. If they would have used 6.3 volts, they would have needed a much bigger power transformer with a lot more current on a 6.3 volt winding. So they were able to have it out, use a smaller transformer by putting the filaments in series like that. So you got 12 volts, you know, so you got like 6 volts going across each of these things. It's probably a little hot. I'll probably have to use a series drop-in resistor with the coil that relay to get it right down at 12 volts. So like I said, I'm working on it, and I got, you know, everything. I mean, the frequency, the PAL VFO is working great. I mean, this thing is, I mean, I can go all the way up to like 29, 300 and all the way down to 28, whatever I said it was. So the thing works fantastic. And I've even got a big, what I'm using now is I'm just using a big, long, shielded, one of those monster cables as RCA for like stereo systems. I've just got a long one. I've only got like about 1.5 volts at this point, and it drives that tube. Oh, you can see what I did here. See, I got the coax running under here, and what I did was I decided instead of going up to the switch, I'll just solder it right to the pin. There's the wire that's coming from the wafer switch on the top of the chassis with all the crystals. I just disconnected that wire and bent it back, and I just soldered this other wire right to. I figured it'd be better to have it right on the pin of the tube instead of going through this, you know, because these things get kind of dirty when you click them around. After a while, they start losing contact. You got to clean them again. This thing's old, you know. So I thought about putting the little crystal socket in there and doing the other crystal, you know, the 4-point whatever it was, and just, you know, unplugging from the wafer switch and just plugging it there so it wouldn't matter where the channel selector is. But I've got it set up so it's on channel 1, it's in the right spot. So that's all I have for now. I just kind of want to give an update on this. I got the mic wired up, still has the amp in it for now. And I'm trying to modify the audio circuit now. I did get the modulation light back in. Like I said, I got the new NE2 bulb in there, and I'm just modifying the audio section, trying to get this thing cleaned up and do what it's supposed to. Then as soon as I get that all right, I'm going to bring the amp in here, and I'm just going to hook it up and see what it does. See if I get the 100 watts out, then I'm going to restore that amp. You know, the amp I'm sure works. The guy told me it worked when I got it. I just, you know, never hooked it up. So I'm just going to hook it up first, plug it in, see if it works. See what kind of power I get with 3 watts driving into it, and then we'll see how that works. But let me get this audio circuit fixed first, and once I'm done with that, then my next video will be with the amp in line probably. I might do one more when I finally get this straightened out to show you, then do the other, but we'll see. So that's all for now. 73s, this is W5HRO.